Saturday is a pretty big game for Syracuse basketball.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Thank you for making us your first listen of every single day. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Folks, this Saturday, Syracuse basketball actually plays a pretty big game. And I'm going to tell you why here on this mini edition of the Locked On Syracuse podcast. For those that don't know, the Orange are playing Boston College this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern on the road. So Syracuse basketball now tries to get its first Power Conference win on the road. They do have a home win. They got their first one overall against Georgia Tech. And I imagine that now they're feeling pretty good about themselves. They finally got the monkey off their back. Everyone can relax at least a little bit for now about Syracuse basketball. But Saturday is a very important game. Why is it important? It's important for the ACC Tournament. And look, guys, it's hard to admit it. It stinks. I'm an alum. I'm a fan of Syracuse. And I want them to make March Madness. But if we're being honest and we're taking off our orange-colored glasses for a second, this team is all but eliminated from at-large contention for March Madness. All but eliminated, unless they go on some miracle run where they win out the regular season and they dominate the ACC, which I highly doubt will happen. They are going to have to win the ACC tournament to avoid missing the NCAA tournament for a fourth year in a row. And unlike previous years where the regular season quite literally did not matter for making the ACC tournament, every team made it. This season, it does matter because the top 15 teams in the conference, based on conference record, make it. But there are 18 teams. That means there are 3 schools out there in the conference that are not going to have the chance to compete to make the NCAA tournament. And unlike pro sports, where losing and bottoming out can sometimes be beneficial, right? You can tank for a number 1 pick. In college basketball and college sports in general, there's no such thing as tanking. So I want this team to win games and get to the ACC tournament, okay? As it stands right now, the Orange are 1-3, which is tied for 5 other teams in the ACC for second worst in the conference. Miami is the worst. They are at 0-4. Boston College is 1-3. Same record as Syracuse. You can already start to connect the dots here. Based on the net rankings, okay, Syracuse is 159 in the net right now. Obviously, that's not very good, but that's actually only 4th worst in the ACC. This is not a very good basketball conference, ladies and gentlemen. Boston College is the worst team in the ACC in the net rankings. They are 215. The other 2 teams that are below Syracuse are Virginia Tech and Miami. But of Miami, Virginia Tech, and Boston College, Boston College is the only team that Syracuse is going to face twice this season. They are also going to play them at home on February 8th. So not only is it important for Syracuse to beat Boston College on Saturday, it's important to sweep them. If they go 2-0 against Boston College and let's say 3-1 or 4-0 in the combined games against BC, Virginia Tech, and Miami, with their win already against Georgia Tech, that might already be enough to get them into the ACC tournament. It's not that hard. You got to be a top 15 team out of 18 total teams in the conference. But it's very important that Syracuse basketball wins this game on Saturday. Hopefully, they can also sweep them on February 8th. On top of that, beating Miami and beating Virginia Tech, because those are the other bottom feeders in the ACC. And guess what? Those are the teams that you're competing with to try to avoid missing the conference tournament outright. That is why, that is why Saturday is so important. We all want this team to win. There's no such thing as a number one draft pick. Syracuse basketball does not get rewarded the number one high school recruit if they bottom out and lose out the rest of the season. That's not how it works. So generally speaking, you want to win the games, right? And so beating Boston College, not once, but perhaps twice, taking care of the bottom feeders, is going to be very important to making the ACC tournament. A split or worse against Boston College, Miami, and Virginia Tech, those 4 games, that could eliminate them from the ACC. There aren't many teams that the Orange are better than in the conference. Not many. They're going to have to pull off some upsets, perhaps, especially if they do not do well against the aforementioned 3 teams that are below them in the net rankings. I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse, and I just told you guys why Syracuse and Boston College on Saturday is very important for Syracuse. Now, coming up, what is the key to victory? How does Syracuse beat Boston College? Stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for. And Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. This isn't disrespect to Boston College, but this is the reality. They are in a very similar boat to Syracuse. This is also a must-win game for them if they want to make the ACC tournament. Okay, these are 2 not-so-good teams in the ACC that come March are not going to be in the running for an at-large bid. The only way they're going to get in either of these teams is if they somehow win the ACC. So we did a preview of the stakes of the game. Now, how does Syracuse beat Boston College? Well, of course, because these are 2 not very good teams, obviously there aren't many things that either team does particularly well. But Boston College does do one thing really well, and ironically, Syracuse does a good job of stopping that very thing. Boston College, based on the numbers, is actually a very good offensive rebounding team. They are 4th in the ACC in offensive rebounds per game. In fact, Boston College has 6 players on its roster that average at least 1 offensive rebound per game. Now, if you don't think that's that much, well, it's still a lot of players in total. It's a volume game for them, and they have 1 player in particular in forward Elijah Strong that averages nearly 2 offensive rebounds per game. So in order for Syracuse really to get this done, they're going to have to control the boards against Boston College. And fortunately for the Orange, the irony here, like I told you, they actually do a good job of preventing offensive rebounds. Statistically speaking, in the ACC, Syracuse is 3rd in defensive rebounds per game. And even without Donnie Freeman, who may or may not play on Saturday against Boston College, Syracuse still out-rebounded Georgia Tech by 9. That's a pretty big margin, okay? So I'm confident that if Syracuse controls the boards against Boston College, they are going to win this game. Now, I am proposing also a lineup change for you all to the starting lineup, okay? And this is contingent on whether or not Donnie Freeman is playing or not. If Donnie Freeman is not playing, I would roll with the same starting lineup that Syracuse had against Georgia Tech. I would have JJ Starling and Chopamore as the backcourt. I would have Lucas Taylor as the small forward, and I would have Jyare Davis and Eddie Lampkin as the power forward and center, respectively. But if Donnie Freeman does return, there has to be an adjustment because Donnie Freeman is, of course, good enough to start, and I want him in the starting lineup, obviously. So here is my proposal. Okay. By the way, Donnie Freeman, day-to-day, lower right leg injury, according to Coach Autry. Sorry, I left that out. But here's my starting lineup. I would go point guard JJ Starling, so I'm keeping that the same. I like JJ at the point guard. I would go with a taller lineup to prevent Boston College from controlling the glass. I would go with Lucas Taylor as the 2 guard because Lucas Taylor is a hybrid wing. He can play the 2, he can play the 3. So I'd put him at the 2. I would have Jyare Davis as the small forward. The reason why is because he is 6'7". So it's not like he's super duper duper tall that he should always be playing power forward. He can play the 3 or he can play the 4. I would have Donnie at the 4, and I would have Eddie Lampkin at the 5. Davis, Freeman, and Lampkin will easily, in my opinion, control the boards against Boston College. They are all very good rebounders. All of them average at least 5 a game. Jyare Davis averages over 5 a game despite playing about 20 minutes. All right, so he's a good rebounder. And Taylor is hot from deep right now. Taylor has been the best shooter for Syracuse for the last few games. And JJ, of course, is JJ. You need him in the starting lineup. So that leaves Chris Bell, who I like coming off the bench. It's been a mindset change for him. It's been good for him, in my opinion. I would continue with that. Chopamore, let's be honest, he's been a little bit shaky the last few games. Maybe he would be better served coming off the bench. Kyle Cuff, I would like him to come off the bench as well because I want Lucas Taylor in the starting lineup, and you're not moving JJ out of the starting lineup. And because I want a bigger lineup in there, that means Kyle Cuff is going to have to come off the bench. Jake Juan Carlos off the bench, and Peter M as well off the bench. Leave your thoughts in the comments section below on the lineup that I am proposing. Once again, I would go with JJ Starling, Lucas Taylor, Jyare Davis, Donnie Freeman, Eddie Lampkin for this game against Boston College to make sure that the Orange control the glass and hopefully win the game. As far as what is coming up on the podcast in the future, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while since we have done this episode. ACC Squad. That's right. It's returning tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern. So make sure to check that out as soon as you are done watching or listening to this. And of course, later tonight, a podcast with 24/7 sports publisher Mike McAllister. That's right. It'll be later this evening, not the usual 6 o'clock. And the reason why is because me and Mike are scheduled to speak to each other at around 8:45 in the evening Eastern. And so I will post it as soon as we are done with our conversation and all that. We are going to talk about Syracuse football in the transfer portal, as well as, of course, the Kyle McCord situation. Any hour, any day now, we could be hearing back from the NCAA regarding that 5th year of eligibility, as Fran Brown alluded to earlier this week. Tomorrow, what's coming up on the podcast? We got Poll Friday. How are you feeling right now about Syracuse football's transfer portal? We're going to talk about that, all right? And then on Saturday, well, it's the big game that I'm talking about here. Syracuse basketball travels to Boston College. They're going to play at 3 o'clock Eastern, and there will be a full post-game reaction podcast. So be sure to check that out on Saturday. Thank you for making Locked On Syracuse your first listen today. And for your second listen, you can check out the Locked On ACC podcast. Alex Dono and Kenton Gibbs, they keep it real and bring you the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. You can find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. And please do me a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you really liked it. And more importantly, tell 1 or 2 of your friends if you like this video to be sure to get them to check it out, and so this channel can grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. I will see you all later today for ACC Squad, and then tonight in our conversation with Mike McAllister. See you soon.